This Zen lesson is about font choice. Real quick about fonts, there's two font families. There's serif fonts, which include those fancy little edges and feet and ornaments on the letters. And those are actually called serifs. And then there's sans serif, sans meaning without. And so that's the plain blocky letters. So we're used to seeing serif when we read textbooks, and we're used to seeing sans serifs when we read on our screens. One of the knocks about Google Docs originally was that there just weren't a lot of fonts available, and on your computer you had access to a million fonts. Well, that's not true anymore. You can add tons of fonts to your Google Docs and your Google presentations. So experiment with that and see what fonts you like. But a word of caution, not all fonts are created equal. Here's a science experiment that they did where they took a true statement that gold's atomic number is 79, and they put it in 4 very common font packages. And they asked people, is this information true or not? And people agreed with certain fonts more than they did others. So looking at these 4, which one do you think people thought was the most true? Which one was the least true? Here's the result. Baskerville, a font that looks like a Times New Roman, which looks like every textbook and newspaper article we've ever read. We look at that and we say, that's true. The least authoritative font, Comic Sans, which is designed to look like a comic book. It has a juvenile look to it. And even though the information is true, it doesn't translate. So I'm going to caution you, use Comic Sans sparingly and really consider, is my message appropriate in Comic Sans? Here's an example of a group that didn't make that decision wisely. This is the announcement of the God particle from a couple summers ago at the CERN laboratory, and they did their entire PowerPoint. By the way, there's nothing Zen about this slide. Look at all of these images, and they're announcing one of the biggest scientific discoveries, and they do it in Comic Sans. It just doesn't fit. There's a website that you might want to Google, and it asks if you're a Comic Sans criminal. And when you notice people overusing Comic Sans, you're supposed to kind of Minnesota passively aggressively send them this website. I'll let you search for it and take a look for it. A couple quick Zen suggestions about using contrast. An easy way to help a reader's eye shift from what is a heading to what is the text is to just simply bold the heading, right? This is very common. It's the way we do a newspaper headline and the body of the story. Our textbooks take this to a different level, and they just change the heading to a different color and a different way to draw a distinction so students know which section to read to find that worksheet answer. One other quick way that you can use contrast is to use your header in a sans serif font, like a Helvetica, and then you use the body in a serif font, one that's like a lot of textbooks that students read. And remember back to that study that when students see serif font, they tend to view that as more authoritative. Try to apply some of these ideas to the documents, the handouts that you create for students. Not everything needs to be in Comic Sans size 12.